Okay, well here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about choosing a collaboration platform. And if you're a commercial integrator, one of the important things is, you can't add all of the great technology, whether it's in the rooms or at other places, unless an organization has chosen a collaboration platform. So this may be something that you want to have a little bit of insight into, because in my experience working with a lot of large organizations, they either fall into one or two camps. They think that they're on the left-hand side of the slide and there's too few choices, or there's not a choice that exactly meets all of their individual requirements. Or they have analysis paralysis and they're just overwhelmed by the number of choices. And in today's market, one of the key things that's coming up is that organizations are thinking about, are they choosing one gigantic suite from a vendor, or are they going to be in this best of breed world and kind of cherry pick and put together, a platform that meets all of their collaboration needs? The good news is that organizations have many good choices, many good options. If we take a look at this, the Gartner Magic Quadrant, we see that Microsoft, RingCentral, Zoom, Cisco with WebEx, and 8x8, those are all in the leaders category, all very good choices. And then you have other kind of challenger choices like Google, which is perhaps a alternative suite choice to like the Microsoft ever-expanding bundle. My name's Kevin Kieller. I'm the co-founder of Enable UC. I started with technology a long time ago, writing video games for the VIC-20 and Commodore 64. So I've been doing this for a while. I've held many roles, created software, led strategy groups for organizations, but I love technology. What I love is helping organizations get the most out of it and actually have it advance their business outcomes. I'm also leader of a group of independent analysts and consultants called BC Strategies, and then in the pandemic, as a passion project, created a gamified training platform called Trivia Engine that happens to work with Microsoft Teams. I do as well, he's not here, but a lot of this data that we're going to talk about was developed by myself and Brent Kelly, who's an analyst at Omdia. We did this for a mega 90-minute session at Enterprise Connect, and so I've distilled down some of that and updated it, because of course things changed over, since March of this year. A big shout out to IMCCA, who has invited me here to talk about this. And you definitely should go check out their booth and sign up for their newsletter. Check out a whole bunch of industry alliances that this group has established. So we're talking about platforms. I like this first quote because it's back from CIO magazine in 2016, and I think that this is very honest when saying it's a latest buzzword. Everybody just started calling things a platform because it sounded better. And I think this marketing professional just goes on and says, yeah, we'll call our solution a platform because it sounds like it has deeper value. Now, the truth of the matter is, having a platform is important, and especially with integration, because a platform is generally a hardware or software foundation that you then build on and add things to. So if we're talking about meeting rooms or huddle rooms or displays or digital signage, all of this plugs into whatever that underlying platform is. And you can imagine if you're a large organization and you're perplexed by the choices, or you keep changing your mind on what you're going to implement, it makes it a lot more difficult to finish it up and integrate and finish off your meeting rooms. Yes, there is compatibility with a lot of these devices across the platforms, but the devil is in the details, and if you don't have your platform choice made, you're not going to be able to kind of pick all the things that are going to finish that off. All of the 4 vendors that I'm going to drill down on, Zoom, WebEx, RingCentral, Microsoft Teams, they are all platforms, as is Google Workspace to a lesser degree, but I will talk a little bit about that. These platforms and the solutions over time have become more similar than different. And so, you can go look at the thousands of features that a vendor offers, But what I've tried to do is go through and highlight relevant differences, because really if an organization is trying to choose, or if you're trying to guide an organization to choose, it's the difference. Let's say it doesn't do something that's of critical importance to that organization. That's the thing that you really want to be aware of. And so if we start at features and functions, Cisco, RingCentral, Zoom, Microsoft, they all provide all the collaborative features that you'd expect: chat, meetings, project collaboration, and telephony. They all support a very wide range and ecosystem of desktop and meeting room devices. A difference here is that Google Workspace and then Google Voice, it has a weaker and limited telephony. So if telephony is core to what you need to get done, keep in mind Google Workspace may be a lesser choice for you. And then another big difference, if we take a look at those four leading kind of collaboration cloud vendors, is Cisco has a very different approach, more of an Apple approach. So Cisco builds the software and the hardware. So they've got this integrated approach, whereas Microsoft, RingCentral, Zoom has more of an ecosystem. You have more choices and more vendors. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you have to decide for your particular organization. Interestingly enough, Cisco actually started making their devices be certified to work with Microsoft Teams. So that's an interesting play in the marketplace, but that is a notable difference across these platforms. There was a talk about hybrid work. We just heard Amelia talk about how to make hybrid work work. Well, all of these platforms support hybrid work. If they didn't at the beginning of the pandemic, they certainly did. I just pulled a few quotes from their marketing materials, but certainly flexibility and supporting different work styles is something that each of these platforms has been working on very strongly over certainly the last 3 years. And they do a good job regardless of where you're working. Unified communications always had this key marketing theme: any device, anywhere, anytime. So it really should surprise nobody that, back in March of 2020, when everybody was forced to go and work from home, that UC Solutions, and especially cloud-based UC Solutions, that they did support this hybrid work. And I think it's important to, kind of take a look at how this worked and who it worked for better. So traditionally, if you're an organization and you deployed unified communications, you said, well, most of the people are going to be in the office, and we'll size, typically it was around 20%. We'd say, hey, let's put at this edge, whatever the edge proxy server infrastructure, your VPN, your circuits coming in, let's plan for maybe on certain days, maybe there's a winter storm and 20% of the people won't be able to make it to work into the office. Now the problem with that is that, if you didn't have the 20%, if you now had 100% of the people working and they try to connect through that 20%, that becomes a bottleneck. On the other hand, with a unified communications as a service, as a cloud-based solution, all of the people can definitely connect to that regardless of where they are or wherever they decide to be from a flexible standpoint. And so we can see with RingCentral, WebEx, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Workspaces, if everybody decides to work from home on Friday, because nobody's coming into the office on Friday, and that's perfectly fine. If on Tuesday, which I think is the most popular day, if you get to choose, Tuesday is the most popular day to say, okay, I'm going to come into the office, a cloud-based solution will handle that. So certainly cloud-based collaboration supports that flexibility. A difference that I think is interesting is really borne out by this quote: "The heritage of the past is the seed that brings forth the harvest of the future." And we see this with these four solutions, and then the fifth, Google. So Zoom was always about meetings, and today Zoom does meetings perhaps best, and it's weaker in the other areas. Cisco did a great job with on-prem telephony and now in the cloud, and meetings with WebEx. They're very strong there. Microsoft was really about all the project collaboration, and then all the business apps that most large organizations use, the Outlook, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. That's really their strength that they're building from. Ring Central was mostly about telephony. They now do, video and meetings, but they're mostly strong in telephony. And, Google was really about email. Gmail is a hugely popular service, I think used by 1.8 billion people worldwide, and they're big on search, so not surprisingly, they do those things really well. But when you're looking at choosing something, I think it is important to understand that heritage, even if it goes back 5+ years, is still impacting the current state. In the past, pricing was a huge differentiator for some of these collaboration solutions. This, I really want to thank Brent. We, for Enterprise Connect, worked through these financial models. It depends on your assumptions. Brent drove most of this. But at the end, the conclusion is, we did a number of different profiles you can see there, so it depends on the type of business. But pricing is really sensitive to your assumptions. So if you assume that I need lots of meeting rooms, the licensing may vary. If you have fewer meeting rooms or larger, smaller, the key takeaway is that pricing is not likely to be a major decision. And this has changed over the past 5 years as things have become more similar and certainly more competitive. The other thing is at the large enterprise scale, the pricing is now hyper competitive and it's very much bundled. So list price and what larger organizations, if you're buying 10, 50, 100,000 license, you're not even paying anywhere close to list price, so it's very difficult to compare. But the net takeaway is pricing is unlikely to be a deciding factor. Obviously, these solutions need to be reliable and resilient. There's different SLAs. Ring Central touts their 5 nines SLA, and some only offer 2 nines, 3 nines. The truth is, all of these provide significant reliability, especially, when people are working remotely. What is failing is not the cloud service. What is failing is their local Wi-Fi or potentially their laptop, especially organizations who haven't done a laptop refresh in a while, or just somebody's trying to run too many applications on them, right? So, all of these are resilient and reliable. There are differences if you're a multinational in terms of where data is stored. It's almost impossible to figure out where these vendors store your data. We had a whole bunch of slides on that for Enterprise Connect, but I didn't include them for this. All of these include local survivability options, really except for Google. Now what that means is, if PSTN, regular telephone calling, is important to you, if the internet goes down, you can have a piece of hardware in your office that lets you place and receive calls that may or may not be important to you. One CIO said, look, I'm not going to invest in this because if the internet goes down, I just tell people to go home or go to Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi or use your mobile phone. And this CIO ended up being very prophetic when the office, a big office, there was flooding. And so all the survivability in the world wasn't going to help because nobody could actually come into the office, and so they stayed at home and worked and got their job done. As I said, some considerations are really things around emergency calling, what role is your mobile phone going to play, and just different common network issues around the home network where people are working. Similarity, so mobile apps, like people used to talk about a mobile app, whether it was Teams or WebEx or Zoom. All of them have mobile apps that surprisingly actually work really well now. You can do a video call, you can do whiteboarding, you can share your screen and fully participate. If you're in the car, hopefully your car's not moving at the time. The difference here is that Google has a lot of mobile apps, but they're all individual apps, so they don't have this unified app, so it's harder to use. There is a difference in that if mobile first, if you really want that to be an option, WebEx has something called WebEx Go, that makes your phone, your mobile phone and your office phone, you don't have two numbers, it's just one, and it works how you'd expect it to work. You can make or receive calls from your laptop, from a desk phone, or from your mobile device. Microsoft has something called Teams Phone Mobile, and even though fixed mobile convergence has been talked about for 10 plus years, it now is actually really working how organizations want it to work. And a lot of, especially executives, are saying, I don't want to have two numbers, so make it simpler for me. And so there are some good solutions, but unique to WebEx, Cisco WebEx and Microsoft Teams. Frontline worker support is interesting. So if if you are supporting a retail organization or you're dealing with healthcare, there's more frontline workers, 2.7 billion, I think is the estimate, 50 million in the US, than there are knowledge workers. And there's been a big focus on knowledge workers for collaboration and unified communication, but organizations are now, the vendors are saying, wait a second, we got a $2.7 billion market that's kind of untapped. And so all 5 of these solutions support frontline workers. Zoom, WebEx, and Teams support it more in a remote expert scenario. So, I don't know, I'm in a manufacturing plant trying to fix something. I don't know what's wrong with this machine, and I can call and maybe do a remote video call, maybe with some hands-free devices where cameras and mics are built into, some head-mounted type of display. Microsoft has a broader perspective here, and they've got a whole bunch of productivity apps designed for frontline workers, from scheduling to doing end-of-day checks and checklists and walkie-talkie support that some of the other people have as well. So frontline workers, we're starting to see a movement into that and consideration for that. A key differentiator that's really growing, and I think is going to be significant in creating differences, is this idea of AI. AI has been in use on all of these platforms and all of these video devices for a long time, but it's really been in the background. So things for like noise cancellation, some of the video framing that we see, background blur replacement, noticing when you get up and move away and maybe saying, be right back. Most as well are providing real-time captioning, which is great, either as an accessibility thing, or if this is a relatively loud space, so you might want to turn that on. And also real-time translation, as we do more work with people located in different countries, that's significant. But what's showing up now is what I've highlighted in number 2, is things like being able to summarize a meeting or summarize a long chat thread. You get invited to a chat thread that's been going on for days, and you can ask AI to summarize that quickly. And then really generative AI, which is asking AI to create something. So write an email explaining why I'm delaying my presentation, or what have you. That really has an opportunity to not just be in the background, but improve the speed of business outcomes. And I have a session tomorrow where I'm going to delve into this. Generative AI, though, works best when it has access to all of your business information. That's your documents, your contacts, and your interaction history. And that really favors consolidating. So I had the slide at the beginning that said, are you going to kind of mix and match best of breed, or are you going to have best of suite? And AI is going to be a game changer, because it's going to work most effectively, push people towards that best of suite. And that has impact for a whole bunch of vendors and vendor integrator partners. So this is a slide that is small, but it's a comparison summary that you can get the slides afterwards. So a few things just to really put a pin in is price is unlikely the differentiator, which is a change. There's still 447 million on-prem telephony seats, so there's still a lot that needs to be solved that isn't in the cloud, so that's a great opportunity for organizations. Microsoft has some strong competitive advantages because it has the whole application suite, and the whole Outlook and Exchange are well used in organizations. But Google is an up-and-comer, and it is really one of the only vendors that is trying to offer a full suite to compete with the Microsoft suite. But I think more than making the right choice, sometimes you have to, as Phil McGraw said, you need to make the decision right. And I really wanted to talk about, what you need to do, whether you're working with organizations or helping organizations be successful in bringing these tools with all this integration. And of course, you need the right team. Now, this is a totally unscientific diagram that I drew, but here's the key part. A vast majority of what the skills you need are what I'll call non-technical skills. It's things like communication, change management, and training. You need to be able to explain to people in an organization, why are we changing things? Why are we revamping meeting rooms or your office space? What's in it for them? What's in it for the organization? So the communication, the change management. Okay, if I did it this way before, what is the path to doing it in the new meeting room, the new collaboration space? Making sure they understand that, and then training them so that they're comfortable with that. Of course, you need the technical skills, and certainly from the integration partners to get this to work, but then you also need the analytics to make sure that it's working from a quality, reliability, and also a usage perspective. And training is absolutely key. I shared this at a session earlier today, but I think it's critical importance. People do not understand the features that they already have, and then we talk about giving them more advanced features, and so the gap is only going to get bigger. They don't get enough initial training, they don't get enough ongoing training, and they will tell you that if they got more training, they would be more productive. So this is a huge opportunity. Yes, roll out the fanciest software and hardware solutions, but make sure that while you're rolling out those solutions, you're also keeping your people up to speed with the training. It's great to be able to integrate this and get this to work and turn it on, but while you're planning this implementation, making your choice right also means you need to plan how you're going to manage this. How are you going to know that things are working? How are you going to get alerted when they're not working? When they're alerted, what group is going to look after it, especially if people are distributed? And that's where a huge amount of focus, you spin up a project plan, you get a team together, you have this whole project, and that's the implementation phase. But if you're successful, the area under the curve for the management phase, if this solution stays around for several years, which hopefully it will, that becomes more effort over time. And really the only way you get your promised return on investment, all the things you put in your business case when you said, hey, we should revamp our collaboration spaces because this is what it's going to do from a business outcome perspective, you only get that return on investment if you figure out how to manage it effectively. So think about the management phase, not after the implementation, but as you're doing the implementation. And train the people, the IT pros, the AV pros that are going to have to manage the particular solution. And then I talked about analytics this morning, but I just want to drill down and say you need to track behavioral metrics, that's what people are doing, and sentiment analysis, and that's what they tell you they're doing. So do you like the solution we deployed? They might say, yes. Are you using it? They may say all the time, but the behavioral metrics may say, wait a second, it's not being used, or vice versa. So track usage, that's how much is being used. Adoption, which is more important, that's who's using it. And look for groups that aren't using certain technologies that you invested in because maybe it doesn't meet their needs from a configuration perspective. Maybe there's a training gap. Maybe they're not using it. We did a survey one time and people weren't using certain things because they were upset that they weren't consulted as part of the deployment. And once we went and talked to them, and now they were no longer upset. So it wasn't a technical issue, it wasn't a training issue, it was just something that they felt they weren't adequately consulted. So adoption, quality, reliability, user satisfaction, and increasingly license usage, because cost optimization, if you're licensing things that people aren't using, that's not great for your return on investment. And of course, focus on trends. Are things getting better or worse? Differences between groups, because if I say it's 97% reliable, is that good or bad? Well, It's really good if every other group is 60% reliable. It's not so great if everybody else is achieving 100% reliability. So look at it by function and level and location as well. Thank you very much.